You'd think after all the new ships, record-breaking prices, and flashy upgrades, cruise lines would have finally ironed out the stuff that drives us all nuts, right? But somehow, even with all the money pouring in, some of the most basic, painfully obvious problems are still alive and kicking on board. So today, I'm pulling back the curtain and exposing the things the cruise line should have solved years ago, but still haven't. If you've ever found yourself wondering why you're still paying more for a cruise while getting stuck with the same old frustrations, you're not alone. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly why so many cruisers are getting fed up. Hey y'all, I'm Evan with Family at Sea, where we help make every cruise unforgettable. Cruising has come a long way. Bigger ships, fancier suites, and more restaurants than ever before. But somehow, some of the most obvious problems on board still haven't been fixed. And if you don't know what to expect, these little annoyances can add up fast, turning an amazing trip into a frustrating mess. So in today's video, you'll see which cruise problems have somehow survived into 2025, why paying more doesn't mean those frustrations magically disappear, and how to set the right expectations so they don't ruin your next cruise. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. Let's kick things off with one of the biggest cruise ship annoyances that still hasn't been solved, no matter how many policies they put in place. Chair hogging at the pool isn't just annoying anymore, it's practically a competitive sport. People wake up at 6 a.m., toss a towel and a paperback on 6 chairs, and then disappear for hours, leaving everyone else wandering around like lost puppies looking for a place to sit. While most cruise lines technically have a no saving chairs rule, enforcement is basically a unicorn. Nice to imagine, but you're never actually going to see it. Evan, why do I feel like I need a tactical battle plan just to find a seat by the pool? Exactly. On sea days especially, it turns the pool deck into a battleground where snagging a chair feels like winning a reality show challenge. It's 2025. We have facial recognition for embarkation and robot bartenders, but somehow cruise lines still can't figure out how to stop people from claiming chairs they're not even using. Until they do, you better set your alarm or be ready to sit on the floor. For all the incredible features cruise ships have added over the years, rooftop roller coasters, massive water parks, and entire neighborhoods at sea, one thing a lot of them still haven't figured out is creating enough spaces to actually relax. Finding real peace and quiet on most cruise ships feels like chasing a mirage. The closer you think you are, the louder it somehow gets. Between the booming music at the pool, trivia contests blasting through the atrium, and live bands setting up just about everywhere, it can feel like the only peace and quiet you'll get is back in your cabin. Even the so-called quiet zones sometimes sit right next to a bar or overlook a party deck. Some ships are better than others, but on a lot of newer designs, it's clear the louder and flashier the ship, the harder it is to find a calm, quiet moment without shelling out extra for a spa pass or a suite deck. And if you think escaping to the adults-only area will solve the noise problem, well, get ready for another reality check. Adults-only spaces are supposed to be the peaceful escape, the hidden gem where you can finally unwind without being splashed, bumped, or blasted by poolside DJs. But on a lot of cruise ships today, adults-only doesn't actually mean peaceful anymore. It just means no kids allowed while 400 adults fight over 50 chairs. These spaces fill up fast, especially on sea days when everyone's desperate for a place to chill out. You'll see passengers circling loungers like sharks, waiting for someone to blink, while the Serenity vibe turns into something way closer to Black Friday at Best Buy. Even if you snag a seat, don't get too excited. Many so-called adults-only areas are barely separated from the main pool deck, so you're still surrounded by the same noise, just without the kids. Some cruise lines manage this better than others though, and that's exactly why it matters who you book through. Picking the right ship in the right itinerary can mean the difference between an actual relaxing getaway and fighting for a chair every morning, and that's why I always book through Cruises It. A great travel agent isn't just there to make the booking, they're there to make sure you're getting the best possible experience without missing the perks that most cruisers never even find out about. And the best part, they're not just about saving you from headaches, they know how to hook you up with the good stuff too. We're talking free onboard credit, better cabin locations, exclusive rates, and special perks you won't find by booking direct. And with their low price guarantee, I can rest rest easy knowing I'm not leaving money on the table. It's like they know a guy who knows a guy who once saved $1,000 just because he booked on a Tuesday. Total legend, that Tony. If you want someone who actually has your back, click on the link in the description if you prefer to book on your own, or call the number on the screen and tell them that Evan from Family at Sea sent you. You'll be glad you did. While you're at it, if you enjoy cruise content like this and you want more tips to make your next cruise even better, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. I've got some great content heading your way that you're not going to want to miss. If you're dreaming of sliding into a hot tub at sea, letting the heat melt your stress away while you sip a drink and watch the horizon, well, you might want to lower your expectations. On a lot of cruise ships, the hot tubs aren't exactly living up to their name anymore. Instead of steamy, bubbling bliss, you often get a lukewarm soak that feels more like you're sitting in bath water after someone already used it. And it's not necessarily the crew's fault. Health and safety regulations have tightened over the years, limiting maximum water temperatures, but on many ships, it's gone beyond safe and straight into disappointing. Evan, at this point, they should just hand us a ladle and call it human soup. Honestly, you're not wrong. Mix in overcrowding with 8, 10, sometimes 12 people crammed into a hot tub the size of a large kiddie pool, and suddenly that relaxing hot tub moment turns into an awkward group hangout with strangers you didn't plan to meet. Let's just say it's not exactly spa day at the Ritz. Now, if lukewarm hot tubs don't kill your vibe, walking past the casino probably will. Because somehow, even in 2025, a lot of cruise ships still haven't figured out how to keep casino smoke from pouring into the rest of the ship. I'm looking at you, Sun Princess. Sure, a few newer ships have fully enclosed casinos with their own ventilation systems, but way too many still treat it like, close enough. You walk through the promenade thinking you're on your way to dinner, and suddenly you're breathing secondhand Marlboros like it's 1988. And it's even worse when the casino sits smack in the middle of the ship, with no real walls, just wide open spaces where the smoke drifts into the shops, lounges, and restaurants nearby. And if you happen to have allergies, asthma, or just a basic desire to not smell like an ashtray all night, good luck. It's one of those problems that should have been solved a long time ago, but somehow, here we are. You know that feeling when you sit down in the main dining room, excited for a nice dinner that's included in your cruise fare, and then the server hands you a menu that looks like a timeshare presentation? Welcome to the new normal. More and more cruise ships are sneaking in premium dishes at main dining. Steaks, lobster, sushi, dishes that come with an extra charge even though you're already paying for the meal. And look, I get it, lobster costs more. Premium ingredients aren't free, but the way it's positioned feels less like a bonus and more like a reminder that your free dinner isn't really free anymore. You didn't book a specialty restaurant, you didn't ask for an upgrade, you just wanted dinner. And now you're sitting there doing mental math in your head, wondering if that $24 filet is actually worth it, or if you're about to have the world's most expensive cruise week without even trying. You'd think when you book a shore excursion through the cruise line, you're getting a carefully planned, well-organized experience, right? And sometimes you do, but more often than you'd hope, you find yourself packed into a giant bus with 50 other people headed to a hidden gem that's about as hidden as a Starbucks in Manhattan. A lot of popular excursions get massively oversold, which means long lines, huge crowds, rushed experiences, and way less of that bucket list magic you were probably dreaming about. Instead of snorkeling and paradise, you're playing bumper boats with half the ship. And when the cruise lines keep pushing more passengers onto the same handful of excursions without adjusting the experience, you feel it. What should have been the highlight of your trip ends up feeling more like a tourist trap with better branding. And that's why I book my tours through Shore Excursions Group. They vet every tour company they work with, guaranteed to get you back to the ship on time, and offer 100% money back if your ship's schedule changes. You still get this security without the inflated cruise line prices, and you'll usually have a way better time. If you want to check them out, I'll leave a link in the description below, and trust me, your wallet and your sense of adventure will thank you. Tendering is supposed to be a simple process. Hop on a small boat, zip over to shore, and start your adventure. But on a lot of cruise ships, tendering is still a complete circus. Lines start forming early, crowd control feels non-existent, and somehow even the most basic instructions get lost in the shuffle. You end up waiting in endless hallways, packed into stairwells, and herded around like confused cattle, all while the clock ticks away on your already short day in port. Evan, sometimes tendering feels a lot like hostage negotiation with a boat. Honestly, you're not wrong. Whether you're trying to get ashore in the morning or fighting to get back on in the afternoon, tendering somehow manages to turn a simple boat ride into a full-blown test of patience. For something that should be routine by now, tendering still feels like cruise lines are making it up as they go, and passengers are the ones paying the price in wasted time and stress. Cruise ships keep getting bigger, but somehow they also keep feeling smaller. On paper, megaships sound incredible. More pools, more restaurants, and more activities. But once you're actually on board with 5, 6, and even 7,000 other people, reality hits a little different. Lines for everything, crowded elevators, packed buffets, and pool decks where finding an empty chair feels like winning the lottery. Instead of feeling like you're on a floating city, sometimes it just feels like you're stuck in a very fancy traffic jam at sea. And while cruise lines are quick to brag about the size of the ship, they're not always as quick to explain that the ratio of public space to passengers hasn't necessarily kept up. Bigger ships bring more options, sure, but the crowds are everywhere you turn. It doesn't exactly scream relaxing vacation. Sometimes it just feels like you paid thousands of dollars to stand in line in the middle of the ocean. It's 2025. We have Wi-Fi in airplanes. We have Wi-Fi in the middle of the desert. But somehow cruise ship internet still feels like trying to load up a web page through a potato. And it's not just bad, it's expensive. Cruise lines love to brag about having upgraded their internet with new satellites and better coverage. But once you're actually on board, you're paying $20 to $30 a day for the privilege of refreshing your email. And then refreshing it again and again because nothing's loading. Streaming a movie? Good luck. Sending a photo? Maybe try mailing a postcard. It might get there faster. And even on ships that claim to have Starlink or other fancy upgrades, they've throttled the speed so much it's barely usable at times. It's even more frustrating because a small handful of ships actually have great internet, showing that it is possible if the cruise lines would simply invest in their infrastructure. It's the kind of frustration that hits you fast and then keeps hitting you every time you see that spinning wheel of doom. Cruise lines love to push their apps these days for booking shows, checking schedules, and making dining reservations. And it sounds great in theory, until you realize half the time the app is about as reliable as a paper map in a hurricane. Some apps won't let you make a reservation at all. Others make you book through the app but force you to call guest services if you want to cancel or make a change, which defeats the entire point of using an app in the first place. Then there are apps that crash every time you try to do something important like check in for a show or see the port times. Even basic things like viewing your onboard account can feel like a chore. When it works, it's convenient, but when it doesn't, it's just another layer of frustration stacked onto a vacation you paid a lot of money to enjoy. You'd think by now cruise ships would have figured out that people don't just travel with a hairdryer and a Game Boy anymore. Between phones, tablets, laptops, smartwatches, portable chargers, cameras, and who knows what else, modern cruisers are basically walking Radio Shacks. But step into your cabin on a lot of ships and you'll be lucky if you find 2 outlets total, usually tucked into the least convenient spot imaginable, like behind the TV or halfway under the desk, making it a full workout just to plug something in. And don't even think about using a regular power strip to fix the problem. Most cruise lines ban them for safety reasons, so you're stuck trying to rotate devices all week just to keep everything charged. It's one of those small but constant annoyances that shouldn't even be a thing anymore, but here we are, still playing outlet Tetris in 2025. You'd think something as basic as ship announcements would be figured out by now, but somehow it's still a mess. On some ships, every announcement blasts straight into your cabin whether you want it or not. So you're minding your business, maybe taking a nap, maybe getting ready, and suddenly the cruise director is yelling about line dancing over the intercom like you're being summoned to battle.
Mandatory guest safety briefing. All bars and food service will...
And on other ships, the announcements barely play in the hallway, so faint you can barely catch a word. You end up scrambling to throw on clothes, fling open the cabin door, and catch the tail end of the announcement just in time to realize you missed whatever was so important. Evan, are we sure the announcements aren't part of some cruise ship obstacle course? You might be onto something there. And the worst part, most of the time there's no way to pick what you hear or mute it selectively. It's all or nothing, full blast or full mystery, which somehow feels like the least modern solution possible for a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's crazy, right? All the new ships, the record-breaking prices, and yet cruisers are still dealing with the same old headaches. But now that you see it for what it really is, you're already cruising smarter than most people ever will. Most people bored thinking everything's been fixed, only to run headfirst into the same old frustrations they didn't even know to expect. They fight for pool chairs, wrestle bad Wi-Fi, and scramble through tender lines and chalk it all up to just part of cruising. But not you, not anymore. You know exactly where cruise lines still fall short and how to set better expectations before you ever step on board. But the bad news is, even if you dodge all the usual frustrations, your cruise can still feel like economy class if you don't know how to upgrade your experience the right way. The good news, I'm about to show you how to take any cruise, even a budget one, and make it feel like a first-class vacation without spending a fortune. In this next video, I'm sharing the best cruise hacks to stretch your budget, unlock hidden perks, and upgrade your experience, no loyalty status required. Click it now and let's make sure your next cruise feels like pure luxury no matter what you paid. As always, thank you for watching, and until next time, may your seas be smooth and your horizons wide. Bon voyage!